The massive chamber fell silent as Elder Zorax entered, his 7-foot frame gliding effortlessly despite the heavy ceremonial robes that draped his elongated limbs. The Galactic Council session was about to begin, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. Captain Elara Chen stood at attention, her dark eyes fixed straight ahead, refusing to show the apprehension churning in her stomach. Humanity had finally achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago, stumbling onto the galactic stage like a toddler taking its first steps. The reception had been less than warm. The established species, some with histories spanning millennia, viewed humans with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "The Council recognizes the representative of Earth," announced Elder Zorax, his voice a melodic rumble that seemed to resonate through the chamber's acoustically perfect design. "We have deliberated on your petition for full membership status." Chen nodded respectfully, maintaining the diplomatic poise that had been drilled into her during months of preparation. As Earth's top naval strategist and the commander of its most advanced vessel, she had been selected to represent humanity in this crucial moment. "The Council has decided to grant Earth provisional membership," continued Zorax, his 4 eyes blinking in their distinctive pattern that Chen had learned indicated formality rather than emotion. "However, given humanity's documented predisposition toward violent conflict resolution, certain restrictions must be imposed." And there it was, the catch they'd been warned about. Chen's jaw tightened slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Earth and all human colonies are prohibited from developing, constructing, or operating military vessels of any kind for a probationary period of 100 standard cycles," declared Zorax. "This restriction is non-negotiable. Violation will result in immediate revocation of membership and potential quarantine of your species. 100 years without warships, the admirals back home would be apoplectic." Earth had only recently unified after the resource wars, and the memory of conflict was still fresh. The idea of surrendering their ability to defend themselves would be met with outrage. "The Council will provide protection for human worlds through our mutual defense fleet," added a smaller counselor to Zorax's right. A Vex, if Chen remembered correctly, with their characteristic crystalline growths and reputation for strategic brilliance. With respect, Chen finally spoke, choosing her words carefully. "Earth has defense concerns unique to our position in the Orion Arm. Our colonies are spread across systems that your fleet does not regularly patrol." "Your concerns are noted but irrelevant to these proceedings," replied Zorax dismissively. "These are our terms. Do you accept on behalf of Earth?" Chen knew what her orders were. Earth needed access to galactic technology, trade routes, and protection from the more predatory species lurking in the void. Without membership, humanity would be vulnerable and isolated. "Earth accepts these terms," she said, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. 6 months later, Chen stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed vessel Artemis, watching as construction drones swarmed around its massive hull. At over 2 kilometers in length, it was the largest ship humanity had ever built, officially classified as a deep space research and resource extraction platform. Admiral Hassan joined her at the viewport, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. "Magnificent, isn't it? And completely within Council regulations." Chen allowed herself a small smile. On paper, at least. The Artemis project had been her brainchild, a response to the Council's restrictions that exploited every loophole they could find. If humans couldn't build warships, they would build something else entirely. "Walk me through it again," Hassan said, though he already knew the specifications by heart. It was something of a ritual between them now. "The Artemis is equipped with high-powered mineral-cutting lasers capable of slicing through asteroid material to 50 meters thick," Chen began, pointing toward the forward section, where the massive array of industrial equipment was being installed. "For mining operations, of course." "Of course," Hassan echoed with a knowing nod. "Its shield systems are designed to withstand micrometeorite impacts and solar radiation, essential for extended operations in asteroid fields. Left unsayed was that these shields could also withstand weapons fire from most medium-class military vessels. The hull is reinforced with a carbon-titanium alloy matrix, necessary for the structural integrity of a vessel this size during extended deep space operations. The fact that this made the Artemis nearly as durable as a military cruiser was merely coincidental. And the propulsion system, prompted Hassan. Dual-purpose plasma engines with variable output configurations, designed for efficient long-distance travel and precise maneuvering around celestial bodies. Also capable of combat evasion patterns, though those subroutines were buried deep in the navigation computers under innocuous labels. Impressive what we can accomplish within these restrictions, Hassan said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. The council representatives will inspect every centimeter of this ship before we launch, Chen reminded him. Everything must be justified for civilian use. And the crew. 200 specialists in various scientific and industrial fields, Chen replied. And coincidentally, 80% of them are former military personnel who've been officially discharged and reclassified as civilian contractors. Hassan chuckled. Quite the coincidence. Chen turned from the viewport to face her superior directly. The true test will be when we actually need to use these systems as intended. Training for emergency situations can only prepare us so much. Let's hope it never comes to that, Hassan said solemnly. The diplomatic fallout would be significant. But they both knew it was only a matter of time. The Galactic Council's protection was spread thin at the edges of settled space, and reports had already come in of strange vessels prodding the defenses of the outermost human colony on Proxima Centauri V. The Council had dismissed these reports as sensor anomalies or misidentified merchant ships. Chen knew better. She had studied every alien encounter record available in the Council archives, identifying patterns that others had missed. Something was moving in the darkness between stars, testing boundaries, looking for weakness. 3 weeks later, Chen stood rigidly as Inspector Talek moved methodically through the Artemis's engineering section. The Rydani inspector's 4 arms allowed him to operate multiple scanning devices simultaneously, his compound eyes shifting independently to monitor each reading. These power conduits exceed standard requirements for mining lasers by approximately 62.3%. Talek noted, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless standard. Chief Engineer Maya Ortiz stepped forward. We're operating in the Kuiper Belt, Inspector. The extreme cold and distance from solar power sources necessitates redundant systems and additional power reserves. Talek's antennae twitched. Skepticism, Chen had learned. And these targeting systems, they appear to have predictive movement algorithms typically unnecessary for stationary mineral extraction. Some asteroids in the belt have irregular rotation patterns, Ortiz explained smoothly. These systems help us maintain optimal cutting angles and prevent equipment damage. Chen held her breath. This was one of their more obvious modifications, but Ortiz had prepared extensively for this question. I see, Talek said finally, making a notation on his device. Unusual, but within acceptable parameters. The inspection continued for 3 more days, with Talek scrutinizing every system, questioning every design choice that pushed the boundaries of civilian classification. The Artemis crew maintained their cover stories perfectly, explaining each deviation as a necessary adaptation for the harsh conditions of deep space operation. On the final day, Talek met with Chen in her office, a deliberately modest space designed to reinforce the vessel's utilitarian purpose. Captain Chen, I have completed my inspection, the Rydani announced without preamble. While I have noted 17 design elements that exceed typical civilian specifications, all fall within the broad definition of non-military equipment according to Council Regulation 3429B. Chen allowed herself to breathe normally again. Thank you, Inspector. We take Council regulations very seriously. Talek's 4 eyes focused on her simultaneously, a sign of intense scrutiny in Rydani body language. I am sure you do, Captain. However, I feel compelled to note that while the Artemis technically complies with the letter of Council restrictions, it pushes the boundaries of their spirit. We operate in dangerous regions of space, Inspector. Safety precautions are paramount. Indeed. Talik's antennae twitched again. I will approve your launch clearance, but be advised that the Artemis will be subject to random inspections throughout its mission. We welcome them, Chen replied with practiced sincerity. After Talik departed, Chen sat alone in her office, reviewing the mission parameters. The Artemis would embark on a 2-year journey, establishing mining operations in the Kuiper Belt before venturing to the edges of human space to survey potential resource deposits near the colonies. Her private terminal chimed with an incoming message. Admiral Hassan, with the latest intelligence. Chen's expression darkened as she read the report. 3 vessels of unknown configuration had been detected near Europa Colony, the second furthest human settlement. They had not responded to communication attempts and had disappeared when a council patrol approached. The timing of the Artemis's launch had suddenly become much more critical. Chen sent a brief acknowledgement to Hassan, then began reviewing the crew manifest. They were scheduled to depart in 48 hours, and every moment of preparation would count. As she worked, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the irony of their situation. The Council had forbidden humans from building warships to prevent conflict, but in doing so, they had forced humanity to become even more creative, more resourceful, and potentially more dangerous than they would have been otherwise. The Artemis wasn't just a ship, it was a statement. Humans would not be left defenseless, no matter what restrictions were placed upon them. If the Council wouldn't protect Earth's colonies properly, then the Artemis would show them what humanity could achieve with determination and ingenuity. And if those strange vessels reappeared with hostile intent, they would discover that restricting humans only made them more adaptable, more innovative, and more prepared for the unexpected. The Artemis may not be classified as a warship, but Chen intended to prove that in the right hands, even a mining vessel could become the sword and shield that humanity needed. The countdown to launch had begun, and with it, a new chapter in humanity's relationship with the galactic community, one that would be written on their own terms, regardless of the Council's restrictions. 6 months into its mission, the Artemis had established a reputation for efficiency. 3 asteroid mining operations were already yielding rare minerals, and the massive vessel had mapped unexplored regions beyond the Kuiper Belt with unprecedented detail. To all outward appearances, Captain Chen and her crew were fulfilling exactly the role the Council had approved. Chen sat in her command chair reviewing the latest reports when Communications Officer Raj Patel's voice broke the routine hum of the bridge. "Captain, receiving emergency transmission from Europa Colony," Patel announced, his normally calm voice tinged with urgency. Audio only, heavily degraded. Chen straightened immediately. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static before a panicked voice emerged. "Under attack. 3 vessels of unknown. Static. Weapons unlike anything. Static. Council defense fleet nowhere. Static. Casualties mounting. Please, anyone." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Distance to Europa Colony," Chen demanded. Navigation Officer Wei consulted her console. 36 hours at standard speed, Captain. 22 if we push the engines to emergency capacity. Chen didn't hesitate. Set course for Europa Colony, emergency speed. Full crew alert. As the bridge erupted into activity, First Officer Mikhail Volkov moved to Chen's side. "Captain, if we engage hostile forces, we'll be in direct violation of Council restrictions," he said quietly. "I'm aware, Commander," Chen replied, her voice equally low. "But there are 15,000 civilians on Europa. The nearest Council defense fleet is 4 days away at best." She met his gaze directly. "We always knew this moment might come." Volkov nodded grimly. "I'll begin preparations. The crew is ready. Have Chief Engineer Ortiz activate all special systems," Chen ordered, discreetly. As Volkov moved away, Chen opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We've received a distress call from Europa Colony indicating they are under attack by unknown forces. We are diverting to assist. This is not a drill. Department heads, enact Protocol Athena immediately. Protocol Athena, named after the goddess of strategic warfare, was the code they had developed for converting the Artemis from its civilian configuration to combat readiness, all without explicitly violating Council terminology. Throughout the massive ship, crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Mining lasers were recalibrated, their focusing crystals adjusted to narrow the beams for precision strikes rather than wide-area cutting. Shield generators were shifted from environmental protection to concentrated defensive configurations. Sensor arrays designed to detect mineral compositions were reprogrammed to identify ship vulnerabilities and weapon signatures. In engineering, Maya Ortiz personally oversaw the activation of systems that had remained dormant since launch. Initiate full power redistribution, she ordered her team. Reactors to 85% capacity. Cooling systems at maximum. Chief, that exceeds our registered civilian power output, her assistant noted. It'll be obvious to any council monitoring. By the time they notice, we'll either have saved Europa or failed. Ortiz replied, her fingers flying across control panels. Either way, we won't need to hide anymore. 20 hours later, the Artemis dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Europa system. The colony planet loomed ahead, its normally vibrant blue-green atmosphere now marred by dark plumes of smoke visible even from space. 3 vessels in orbit, reported Sensor Officer Kimura. Configuration unknown, no match in Council databases. Chen studied the tactical display. The alien ships were arranged in a triangular formation above the colony's capital city. Each was perhaps a quarter the size of the Artemis, but their sleek, predatory shapes left little doubt about their purpose. Life signs on the colony? Chen asked. Scattered concentrations, primarily in the southern continent's underground facilities, Kimura replied. Significant reduction in overall readings compared to colony records. They're killing them, Volkov said quietly. Chen's expression hardened. Hail those vessels. After a moment, Patel shook his head. No response, Captain. Try all frequencies, all known protocols, Chen insisted. We need tow. Captain. Kimura interrupted. They're turning toward us. Energy signatures increasing. They're charging weapons. Shields to full, Chen ordered calmly. Move us between those ships and the colony. Targeting systems online. The bridge crew exchanged glances. This was the moment of no return. Once they activated targeting systems, their charade as a civilian vessel would be impossible to maintain. Do it, Chen confirmed, reading their hesitation. The Artemis surged forward, its massive bulk accelerating with surprising grace as it positioned itself as a barrier between the attackers and Europa Colony. Incoming, Kimura shouted. The first impact rocked the ship, but the shields, designed to withstand asteroid collisions and solar flares, held strong. Shield efficiency at 92%, reported Ortiz from engineering. Minimal impact. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Target their propulsion systems with lasers 1 through 4. Let's see what our mining equipment can do. The Artemis's forward array glowed bright blue before releasing concentrated beams of energy that sliced through space toward the nearest alien vessel. The impact was immediate and devastating. The enemy ship's engine section erupted in a cascade of explosions as the beams cut through its hull like paper. Direct hit, Kimura confirmed, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. Their aft shields are completely down. These aren't Galactic Council standard designs, Volkov observed. Their technology is different, possibly more advanced in some ways, but they weren't expecting our laser configuration. The remaining 2 alien vessels split formation, coming at the Artemis from different angles. New energy signatures flared on Chen's tactical display. Evasive pattern Delta, she ordered. Rotate shield distribution to match incoming trajectories. For a vessel of its size, the Artemis performed the maneuver with remarkable agility. Another coincidental benefit of its design for precision asteroid navigation. One enemy blast grazed their starboard shields while another missed entirely. "Forward mining drones ready for deployment," announced Drone Officer Santos. The mining drones, small, highly maneuverable units designed to attach to asteroids and extract core samples, had been another stroke of Chen's innovative planning. Each was equipped with cutting tools that could penetrate most known materials, and each had been secretly modified with additional thrusters and simplified targeting systems. "Launch pattern Hephaestus," Chen commanded. 50 drones erupted from the Artemis launch bays, swarming toward the alien vessels like mechanical insects. While individually small and relatively weak, their collective approach overwhelmed the aliens' tracking systems. Several were destroyed by point defense fire, but most reached their targets, attaching to hull sections and immediately beginning to drill through with their industrial cutting tools. "The closest vessel is venting atmosphere," Kimura reported. "The other is attempting to dislodge the drones by rapid rotation." Chen turned to Volkov. "Time to see if your training scenarios paid off, Commander. Tactical control of the drone swarm is yours." Volkov nodded and moved to the specialized console they had installed under the designation Remote Mining Coordination System. His fingers danced across the controls, directing the drones in concert. Those on the spinning vessel synchronized their movements to maintain position, while others targeted vulnerable points identified by the Artemis's sensors. The battle continued for 20 intense minutes. The Artemis absorbed multiple hits, its shields gradually weakening but holding. The first enemy vessel, crippled by the initial laser strike, drifted powerless. The second, overwhelmed by drones, lost weapon capabilities as critical systems were severed by precise cuts. The third maintained aggressive maneuvering, but couldn't penetrate the Artemis' defenses. "They're breaking off," Kimura announced finally. "The last operational vessel is retrieving crews from the disabled ships using transport technology." His console beeped urgently. "They're powering up their FTL drive." "Let them go," Chen ordered. "Our priority is the colony now." As the remaining alien vessel disappeared into FTL, leaving its crippled companions behind, a collective breath was released across the bridge. "Damage report," Chen requested. "Shields at 41% efficiency," Ortiz responded from engineering. "Minor hull breaches on decks 12 and 17 already contained. 3 mining lasers offline due to power surge. 22 drones lost." She paused before adding, "No casualties, Captain." The old girl held together. Chen nodded, relief washing through her despite her composed exterior. "Begin rescue and aid operations immediately. Medical teams to Shuttle Bay 1. Engineering teams prepare to assist with colony infrastructure repair." As the Artemis moved into stable orbit around Europa Colony, Chen knew their actions today would have far-reaching consequences. They had saved thousands of lives, but they had also revealed humanity's defiance of Council restrictions. "Captain," Patel called out. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Hassan, Priority 1. Chen squared her shoulders. "In my ready room." "Commander Volkov, you have the bridge." In the privacy of her ready room, Chen accepted the transmission. Admiral Hassan's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of concern and pride. "We've received preliminary reports," he said without preamble. "The Council monitoring station in the Proxima sector detected your engagement." "The colony was under attack, sir," Chen replied, standing at attention even through the video link. 15,000 civilians with no Council defense fleet in range. "I'm not criticizing your decision, Captain," Hassan clarified. "Far from it. Early reports from Europa survivors indicate these attackers have hit 3 other fringe worlds in the past month, non-human colonies that were similarly isolated from Council protection. The Council Defense Ministry has been keeping it quiet to avoid panic." Chen's eyes narrowed. They knew there was a threat, and still insisted we remain defenseless. "Politics," Hassan said with disgust. "The elder species don't want to admit their defense strategy has vulnerabilities." He leaned closer to the screen. "But that's about to change. Your encounter was recorded by Europa's orbital platforms. The footage is already spreading through council channels. And our violation of the restrictions. Hassan's mouth curved into a slight smile. That's the beautiful part, Ilara. Technically, you didn't violate them. Sir, your ship is registered as a deep space mining and research vessel. You used mining equipment to defend a colony when no military support was available. The Council's own emergency protocols allow for civilian vessels to render aid with all available resources. Hassan's smile widened. Our legal team has been preparing for this scenario since the Artemis was designed. The Council can't condemn us without admitting their defense fleet is inadequate. Chen sat back, processing this information. What happens now? Now we negotiate from a position of strength, Hassan replied. Earth has already called for an emergency council session. We're proposing a revision to the restrictions, allowing human colonies to maintain defense vessels under Joint Human Council command. And the Artemis. You're to proceed with rescue operations at Europa. Then bring those disabled alien vessels in tow back to Earth space. Our scientists are very interested in studying their technology. Hassan's expression became more serious. You've changed the game, Captain. You've shown that humanity won't sit idle while our people are threatened, regardless of restrictions. And you've demonstrated that our ingenuity can overcome limitations others place on us. After the transmission ended, Chen returned to the bridge, where operations to assist the colony were well underway. Through the main viewport, she could see the curved horizon of Europa, the planet they had just saved. Shuttles streamed between the Artemis and the surface, carrying medical supplies, repair teams, and hope. Captain on the bridge, Volkov announced as she entered. Chen looked around at her crew, scientists, engineers, and former military personnel who had trained for this moment while maintaining the pretense of civilian operators. They had performed magnificently. Status report, she requested. Rescue operations proceeding efficiently, Captain, Volkov reported. Colonial defense forces have secured the main settlement. Medical teams report 322 critically injured civilians being treated, with more minor injuries still being assessed. Chen nodded. And our guests. Volkov understood immediately. The disabled alien vessels are being secured with our cargo tethers. Engineering teams report their technology is unlike anything in Council records. Prepare them for transport back to Earth, Chen ordered, and maintain full sensor sweeps of the system. Where there were 3, there may be more. As the crew returned to their duties, Chen stood at the center of her bridge, contemplating the future they had just shaped. The Artemis had been built to circumvent restrictions, to protect humanity while technically abiding by Council rules. Today, they had proved the concept worked beyond their highest expectations. Humanity had been forbidden from building warships, but they had built something perhaps more formidable, a ship that represented human adaptability, ingenuity, and determination. The Council would have to recognize now that humans couldn't be contained by mere regulations. If they wouldn't provide adequate protection, humans would protect themselves, finding creative solutions to whatever obstacles were placed in their path. As the Artemis continued its rescue operations in orbit around Europa colony, Captain Ilara Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. They had succeeded against all restrictions, against unknown enemies, against the doubts of species thousands of years more advanced. The Galactic Council was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Tell them they can't do something, and they'll find a way to do it anyway, usually better than anyone expected.